Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to have David Hill here today. Thanks for being here, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Cool intro. That was good.
Did you like yourself? You look so handsome.
Well, there was so many others too, though. I saw Brian, I saw Evan. I've had those guys on my podcast too. It's really
I know, it's really cool. I've looked through your list too, and I was getting everything prepped for today, and I was like, oh wow. I do, however, want to interview Mel Robbins. I haven't had her on yet, which would be amazing.
She's hard. I'm working on her for a second time. I think I got it, but hopefully in the next, she just had a new book come out.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah,
and
so she's open to that now.
Yeah, she's been throwing a lot on social media. That's just so powerful. But you are no different. And so I'm excited to have you on here today. You guys, I was on David Hill's The Path to Mastery a little while ago. And so you have to tune into that show too. I'll be sure to link it in the show notes because it was a really great episode.
That was awesome. I listened to it myself last week at the gym. It was amazing. Thank you.
It's so much depth. And I think that that's one of the things that's really cool about our relationship is I dove real deep, real quick with David at the Breakfast of Champions Consortium in New York City that you guys have heard about multiple times before. And I just was making new friends. And I went into that experience with the two things. One, to go deep with people, so that it wasn't just a subsurface conversation, because I don't really feel like I have time in my or space in my life to do that anymore. And two, with a spirit of discernment. And that was like my ultimate prayer going into that experience, and many, but this one specifically, those were my two. And I just had this knowing that like you were one of those discerned people that were going to meet me in this conversation. And I was grateful to spend dinner with you. So thank you for allowing me to poke and prod a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate that. This morning, every morning, I have a process that I do is I use a Brendan Bouchard's journal. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I love him, but I don't know his journal. No.
It's a planner, and it's very intentional. It takes about 40 minutes, honestly.
Wow.
You have to answer all the questions, and one of the questions is, what are you excited about today? And I wrote down this interview. So that was, so that's cool.
I love that so much.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, my pleasure. So you have an incredible backstory, and everybody I think does in some way, shape, or form, but the way that you show up is based on your backstory. And I think some people formulate a new story for themselves and they don't put that past as a part of it. And so I'm excited that not only from your sales career, but also from the way you're showing up from a coaching and mentoring perspective, even your podcast on a consistent basis, that you really have a servant's heart. And so I'd love for you to share a bit about what that backstory is. You can jump into childhood if you want. You can jump in where you felt called. But let's unpack a bit for the listeners.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how far.
He's like, oh, where you were born. Yesterday's podcast guest.
Yes,
he was like, I was
born in Boston on May 5th, 19. So it's. I mean, listen, it starts at my childhood was a mess. I mean, I'll go there. I mean, my father was an alcoholic. He was, I'm assuming drug addict. And he was abusive. He was angry. He was, and he was very abusive to my mother and myself. And, so I dealt with that as a kid and ended up, just going through a lot. We lived in a car for a while. We ended up living in one of those step vans for a while, which was a nice upgrade from the car, to be honest with you.
Hey, good
Believe it or
power
not, yeah.
perspective.
It was like one of those vans they deliver newspapers in. Like we had one of
Yes.
those, and that was like a big deal. It was like a motorhome or something. And it's funny.
Yeah.
It's easy to laugh at it now,
Yeah, right. I'm
but
like,
when you're
well,
a kid, you don't even
yeah,
realize it. I mean, the
yeah.
reality is it was just normal. You know what I mean? And my family made money selling. We sold artwork on the corners between New York and Boston. So my parents would, we drive back and forth and sell this artwork that we created. And
Wow,
actually,
that's
it's interesting because I
cool.
haven't
Yeah, that's
used to
really
create
neat.
these. You take like a piece of wood and you'd stain it, and then you'd put like a print on it, and then you'd put like
Yeah.
all this shellac type glue stuff on it, and it would harden up and it'd make like a seal over the
Cool.
wood. And then we'd sell those things, and I don't know how much we sold them for, I don't remember, but
Yeah, that's really
that's how we
neat
made
though.
money. And then we shrink wrap other stuff. And anyway, long story
Entrepreneurship
short,
from the beginning.
yeah, I ended up, my father just did a lot, and those were probably some of the good times. And there was a lot of bad times. I ended up in foster care and just got in a lot of trouble as a kid. I didn't have any discipline or guidance, or so I hung out with other kids that were, in the neighborhoods I lived in, and we did, stupid shit. Sorry,
No, I get
but
it.
I
It
ended
is
up,
what it is.
getting
Yeah, it's the
myself in
truth.
trouble. And
Yeah.
honestly, I got locked up at
Yeah.
19, and I'm lucky I didn't do more. I did 11 months and got out. Still continued to get in trouble. I was about to get locked up again at like 28 for a long time.
Yeah.
But I was blessed that I was able to, as an alternative to being locked up, I just had to, stay out of trouble for 3.5 years, go to a 6-month rehabilitation center, which was it's a correctional rehabilitation
Yeah.
center.
Yeah.
So and if I and I did that, and I got lucky. I
Wow.
went in there, and one of the corrections officers was a really good guy, kind of befriended me, took me to some outside meetings downtown Springfield. And then this little black lady, I mean, this is this little black lady that I wouldn't even remember if I saw her, came up to me at a meeting, and she grabbed me by my arm, and she said to me, do you want to get sober? And I said, yeah. I said, and she's like, then you need to get on your knees and you need to humble yourself. And I didn't even know what humbling myself meant.
Yeah,
And
sure.
and and she was like she was the only, like, I weigh 170 now. I'm fit. At that, I was 195 pounds, all muscle, just a lunatic at that
Yeah.
age.
Wow.
She's the only person in the world that could have grabbed my arm and delivered that message to me without me doing something.
Hitting. Right.
Yeah, just who
Exactly.
knows? I mean, that's all I knew. My father
Wow.
taught me to fight. My father taught me kickboxing. If think about it, you're a kid with no social skills, no real confidence. Just I was taught, if you cry when you're being beaten, you're beaten harder.
Mm.
And by the way, you're a master at kickboxing. So you can imagine how that, how that served me when I'm now going into the real world and
Yeah.
engaging with other kids. And so I was a nut, and I got in a lot of trouble. And the only thing I was good at was fighting. So
Yeah.
that was the only thing I was good at. And I'm lucky for that, because years later I realized that that's where I got confidence. If it wasn't for that, I probably would have had no confidence. But
Yeah.
anyway, I forget where I even was with the
Well,
story.
this little old lady had
Oh,
you get
yes,
on your
thank you.
knees to
Yeah, I
humble
don't know how I
yourself.
got, yeah, I went way off
No, no,
track.
I'm here.
Sorry.
I got you. I think it's amazing, and it's true.
Um, yes, so she convinced me, she grabbed my arm, she held my arm, and she said, "You need to get on your knees, and you need to humble yourself." I didn't know what humble myself meant. She said, "That is what you're saying, is you are below." Like, she must have knew. She said, "By humbling yourself, you're saying you're below God or power greater than yourself." And I said, "Okay." Went back that night to Howard Street, which is now the casino, by the way, in Springfield. It's
Of
gone.
course it
It's
is.
it's the casino. But it's and I made sure no one was around in the place I was, and I put my knee on the floor, and that's where it all started. Like
Wow.
November 7th, ironically, during
Ah,
the
how
event,
good. That's
is my
amazing.
19-year anniversary of sobriety. And
Wow,
so,
that gives me crazy
yeah, so
chill.
it's pretty wild how much my life has changed in 19 years. And I'm
Wow.
married now. I have 3 amazing daughters. I have we live in a pretty nice house, not a car. I mean, it's
Thank you, Jesus.
it's a
Well,
miracle, you
it's
know?
so interesting. I mean, to have that, and we'll call it a rap sheet. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And then for me, almost 19 years to the date later, to have a discernment of your calmness rather than your fight. Like, I didn't sense that from you at all. I still don't to this day. And
Yeah,
so
I
I
mean, it's
feel like
still
there's such a,
inside,
of course, of
but,
course.
it's, I use it as, intention
Mm.
and, urgency and yeah, but I've come a long way. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course God gave you girls. He's
Yeah,
like,
and I was
you're
blessed. I've got amazing daughters, and I have an older daughter that she wasn't around when I was really in trouble, but she knows part of my the end of my drinking because she's 28 years old. So I
Yeah,
wasn't the best dad
yeah,
with her because her mom would drop her off, and all I could do was sleep on the couch
yeah.
because of the night before. So unfortunately, she still knows some of that, but my daughters Samara and Penelope, they know of me as a phenomenal, amazing dad, and I'm blessed.
I love
Blessed.
that. I love that there's
Yeah.
a redemption to the story in
Mm,
such a magnificent way. And
yeah.
I think even as you're talking through like the name of your show and like the path to mastery, I think a lot of times people think that mastery is the black belt. We're going to relate to fighting here is the knowing that they've made it to this milestone, but in fact there's more. And there is no, I don't think when what is Karate Kids? What's his name? I mean, Jackie Chan, but I
Oh, you're
can't,
talking Ralph
Master.
Macchio?
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's
I
like,
used to say I looked like that guy when I was a
I
kid.
can
It's
see that.
weird.
I can see that's awesome. And
Yeah,
so it's
I
the
don't know
knowing
how,
that
but
like there was never a finite piece. And this is a huge part of like what I love so much about talking about people's journeys is I've never had somebody on the show that I'm like, you've made it, because I just don't believe that that's the
yeah.
truth of human nature. Otherwise, we would be facing our deathbed. So I want to hear about like this path to mastery, where that language came from, and even from an entrepreneurial perspective, what that looks like.
Well, where it came from is, I was when I was in the real estate space, I was fortunate to, use all my energy to work 80 hours a week and become the number one realtor in my town and, build a team. And, so I was able to get into Gary Keller's mastermind. And so ended up spending a lot of time with Gary Keller. For people that don't know, he's the founder of Keller Williams Realty, which probably still is the largest real estate company in the
Huge.
world.
Yeah, huge.
I'm no longer there for other reasons, not because of obviously Gary,
Yeah.
um, but anyway, and he always talked about, mastery as being not like a place you reach, but a place that it's like a destination, right? Like but you don't get there. Like it's
Mm.
just,
Yeah, I love that.
there's always another level. And I always loved it too. And I just thought like, wow, I'm on the path to mastery. And that's how I came up with my podcast. So everybody I talked to, like you said, I've had Gary Vee on, I've had Mel Robbins, I've had Brian Tracy, I had James Altucher a couple weeks ago, which was phenomenal.
So awesome.
And every one of them just says the same thing. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
I still want to know more. I don't know everything. I need to grow. I need to do more. I need to help more people. I need, it's like, what's next
Right.
is, there should be a podcast called What's Next.
Yeah, for real. And I love
Yeah.
asking people that question, because a
Mm,
lot of times they've come to this place and they're on because they have a new book, or they're on because they have a podcast connection, or they're launching something new, or any of those reasons. And I'm always like, cool. So you check that box. I
yeah.
know as a creator, I know as an entrepreneur, I know as just a human being, that there is always that next door, that there's always that next vision. And I think oftentimes people negate the fact that we are all visionaries, even though that's a specific gift or talent that biblically says is gifted to certain people from an apostolic perspective. We all have vision because we all have figurative eyes based on our understanding of who God is and what he wants out of the purpose of our life. So when you think through everything that you've curated thus far, what would be like what's ahead of you?
Yeah. Just big things, Tamra. I feel like I'm just now starting to get to a place where my mindset's even open enough, and I heard Oprah, I think it was Evan Carmichael shared an Oprah clip, and I'd never heard this before, but she talked about even having the littlest bit of doubt, like just the little tiniest bit of doubt is going to prevent you. And, I feel like although I've got far, I always still had that underlying, and it's still there. I'm not gonna be honest.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
It's,
get you.
but
I feel
but
it.
it's not like it was, and it's getting better and better. And I feel like I feel like there's more. I believe there's more. I believe I can do more, and I believe I deserve more. And I think that, by hanging out with Tim Story a bit, I've been fortunate to have a relationship with Tim, and we talk once a month. And he's helped me see some miracles in my life, and look back at things that I didn't realize were miracles, that are miracles.
Wow.
And and he what occurred to me recently was, I look at my life right now, and we got the house with the 3-car garage, all the stuff that I thought was such a big deal. But I'm living at I'm living at, like, what I felt was living in abundance is actually still living in scarcity because of my mindset. And I think
Wow.
there's really a next that and that that's so I think my potential is so much greater.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm always working on fixing my mindset and just
That's
getting
so good.
better and more clear.
And I think as you're talking about the doubt piece, it's like the past version of yourself that every time I'm such a visual learner. And as you're talking, I'm imagining when we are on a path and we're walking down this, like, mastery is the goal, right? Or wisdom, which I'm seeing in the words behind you on the wall, is the goal. We are actually stepping out of self. We're stepping
Mm,
out of that past version of self, that doubt, in order to step into the newness of what's ahead. And it's almost like you've left this trail of past Davids. And so when you turn around, you're like, wow, look at all of the people that I have been, and look at all of the people I will be. And every single time you're stepping into that new shape, it's like shape shifting, right? Yourself based on the path of mastery, based on your mindset growth and evolution and expansion, and ultimately wisdom after wisdom after wisdom of being cultivated. And I think a lot of times people think that, like, I don't believe wisdom has an age, because a lot of times I'll have conversations with my child and I'm like, whoa, that was a golden nugget. I never thought of it like that.
yeah.
And so recognizing that it's not an evolution of age, but an evolution of self, that allows us to do that. And then at some point, there's the doubt that creeps in from the exterior world. And so releasing that step by step is also super critical, because I think we can create bigger dreams. We can realize that there's more potential, but
Mm,
sometimes the more potential is paralleled by the enemy with more doubt.
yeah.
How do you face that? How have you been able to get past and let go?
Yeah, I think we just realized that it's just there. It's sometimes you just like, okay, well, hey, it showed up, but keep moving, and it is what it is, right? I think one of the struggles was a lot of us get hung up on it, and that's why we don't take action. I mean, I teach people how to be effective with lead generation, outbound lead generation, which can be uncomfortable for certain people, for most people, calling people you don't know, or even walking up to people you don't know, or even some people, sending messages to people they don't know, like DMs and stuff. People take that, like, really, for me, that's like, it yeah I've been doing it for so long,
Yeah.
but the point of it is, just how do you it's you just got to be okay with it. And the cool thing about it, Tamara, is the more you do it, it becomes easier and easier and more natural. But most people just get hung up on the fear
Yeah.
the potential rejection, and they don't take action. And I think my belief is the key to all of this is just ask action. I mean, take some action. I think that's why I love Mel Robbins' book, The 5 Second Rule. It's one of the best reads
Totally.
anybody
Totally.
can read, because it's just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
Yeah.
go.
Do
You know
it.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well,
and then
doubt, as you're saying,
yeah,
it's like doubt is a distraction from the potential evolution.
Yeah, it
And
is.
so you're like looking away. So if we go back to that visualization, now I want to like draw this. If you go back to like what could be that next version of self, doubt is actually not having you look backwards, and it's not having you look forward. You're looking left or right, and you're not actually doing anything. You're staying in what Tim Story would say, that mundane or madness, because
Yeah.
you're using insanity as an example of, oh, I'll say comfortable here. And insanity is just doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. But you're just literally walking in circles, avoiding the evolution of self. And it's hard to shake someone out of that. So, especially around sales, because sales is usually from a fear mentality, or again, that doubt mentality of what they've been trained up to experience. Nobody likes to door knock, but that's how my husband's very successful company started, door knocking, right? And a lot of people have that story. You were essentially door knocking with your parents when you were selling that art on the side of the road, whether or
True.
not it was a figurative door or the person passing by, hey, what do you think about this? And I have the pleasure of going down to Mexico frequently because my family lives there. We bring our kids there several times a year. And the kids, like, they're literally 3 and 4, and they're coming up to sell me chiquiles and churros. And they're coming and they're washing my
Yeah.
windows when we're stopped at a traffic light. And I'm like, I don't have any change. I don't have any pesos, right? And I'm just like smiling, like, thank you, gracias, right? It's the recognition that there is going to be 20 years from now a scarcity mindset to them, or they're going to have that other path to mastery experience where they realize this is my greatest advantage. This is my greatest tool. And I think for you, it served as your greatest tool to be a sales expert.
Yeah, it's something that occurred to me. A friend of mine hosts a podcast called the 7-2 Mindset, and he had me on the show, and I hadn't really, he was asking all these. It occurred to me that my first phone call was when I was climbing out the window to run down the street and call the police on my dad, and climb back in the house before the cops got there. So, but
Wow.
ironically, that my career started in a Kirby call center at like 16 and a half, making calls and setting appointments for Kirby vacuum cleaner
Yeah.
salesman. And then there's a lot in between, 35 years in between. And then where I left Keller was I was a consultant for Gary Keller, calling independent brokerages and talking, getting them to meet with Keller about, our partner merging their brokerage into the Keller Williams system. So that took me from calling the cops on my dad to building multiple businesses, to building a top real estate team, to doing that, and now teaching people. But ironically, it all started calling the cops on my dad, and it never clicked before that.
Wow.
Like, the phone has always been an integral part of my
Hmm.
my life and what I've done to be success. And back then, success was stopping my dad from beating up my mother anymore.
Yeah, how interesting. And I know, like, when we had that intimate conversation in the midst of a party, by the way, you guys, it wasn't like we were dining at dinner, just us. There was a lot of people around us, loud
Yeah.
music. And I wanted to know, like, what he was passionate about right now, and also what he was doing with that passion. Because I think a lot of people have this dormant passion inside of them, and they don't do anything because there's not that expression of like play in life anymore. And like, you get to create that version of yourself tomorrow, and it's not anything that is what the world says that it has to be. It's probably very different than what the world or the person who puts you in a box of this is my expectation of you is. And
Mm.
so talk to us about how you're also leaning into like the component of mentorship and helping other people who have been where you've been.
Yeah, well, first off, I've never really talked about, my past before in public until the last probably 6 months or so, maybe shorter.
Wow.
So,
Wow. Well, you've done
um,
such a beautiful job
I
of
mean, I've
like,
taught, I used to go into schools locally,
yeah.
because I was a business owner. I talked to the kids in the schools and stuff. And, but no, not in a public forum. So I was
Yeah.
always like worried, well, people going to judge me, people going to say this or that. And then I just realized, you know what, I don't, if people want to judge me for however you want, it doesn't matter really in the end, because, it's, I am, I am where I come from, and that's what makes me who I am, so now I can go and I can help people that are in the same situation, and I can relate. And it's interesting because our first conversation, I told you I was working on getting into. I reached out to someone, and the paperwork, by the way, it's approved. The paperwork's in my
Yay.
email right now. I just have to sign it, get it back to them, and we're going to start bringing Zoom goal meetings into the inmates in South Carolina.
Congratulations. What a
Prison
gift.
system, and so just things like that I'm doing. Um, and I'm working with Tim on some other stuff, and you're starting to see a little bit more videos about me and some of the stuff that I went through, because there's a lot of people that went through similar things that I can help now. And I feel that's where I am in life right now. Tamra, I'm here to. There's a reason I'm around, and most of the people I grew up with are either not, or they're in jail, or they're just didn't do very well for themselves, unfortunately. So I feel like I'm here to. This is the part of my life where I'm here to. I think if there's a book called Halftime, are you familiar with that book?
I'm not.
Yeah, it's Bob Buford. You
Okay.
may be familiar with Bob Buford. He was a
Okay.
huge pastor, but he wrote a book called Halftime, and the premise of the book is the first half of your life is about you, and then the second half of your life is about others. And so I feel like I'm in like the second half of my life now, and it's about others and giving back. So
Wow.
that's where I am right now in life.
I love that
And I
so
wasn't a
much.
giver, trust me. I wasn't brought
Yeah.
up to give. I was brought up to steal. I was brought up
Sure.
to cheat. I was brought up to get shit done. And my dad, thinking about this the other day, um, my father would pack me with meat. We'd go in a supermarket and they'd pack me up with meat and bring, so that's what I was taught at a young age. And then when I got caught shoplifting, I got the crap beat out of me by him. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Wow. Yeah,
okay, right.
like, where do you stay and
Yeah,
what's
yeah, yeah.
your
So
footing
anyway,
on what's
I'm
right and
going
wrong?
way off on
No, I
tangents
don't feel
now,
like you are at all. I think
but
this is
that's
like the understanding that as you go to serve and mentor other people, they have these similar life scenarios and they need the understanding of mentorship to say, I do have this 3-car garage. I do have these things that don't even really matter to you other than the fact that it's a proof of the fruit that has been in your life based on obedience, based on shifting your life, shifting your mindset towards what could be rather than what is based in your past. And that's that stagnancy that probably a lot of them, especially if they're in jail, are experiencing, where they're like, they need that humility moment. They need that humbling moment. And
yeah,
especially for men, I'm sure it's really hard to get on 2 knees. I would say that from a woman's perspective, it was hard to understand humility. It was hard to understand surrender because I too was taught like, confidence, and you're taught achievement, and I can't show the world that I am this lesser version of self. And
mm,
as I go to release my book next week, it is the scariest thing. I talk about my past in contrary often, and I have for the last few years, but it's never been kitted in like a one space that someone could go front to back and experience the whole entity. So I'm good at sharing nuggets, but the whole story, it's like a movie of your life. You're like, wait, that's super vulnerable. And I do have those swirling thoughts of what are they going to think? But I think
yeah,
as you were saying that, the one thought that I came to is usually their judgment is that pointed finger experience where they have the 3 fingers pointing back at them and they've yet to deal with something. And so they're trying to deflect or gaslight your imperfections based
mm,
on something that's an impurity in their soul.
yeah. And what I've learned, I mean, I'm 51. I've been around for a little bit. No matter what I do, I can't please everybody. No matter what I do, not everybody's gonna like me. Not everybody's gonna, and I'm okay with it. I mean, that's that's reality. I took a lot of, that's not an easy thing to grasp for people, but because I want to be a people pleaser. I want everybody to like me. You know what I mean? I want to be the popular guy. Um, and a lot of people do. But then so I'm okay with that. And that's why I think it's easier now to just be myself, because those people aren't going to like me regardless
Yeah, no, they're
of what
totally
I
not.
tell
You're
them
right.
about my story. They may not like the way I sound. You know what I mean? Like people like,
Yeah.
yo, for you sound like you're from Boston, the hood or something. Well, that's where I grew up. So yeah, that
Exactly.
might be why I sound like that.
I love it.
But you know what? I care, and I'm going to help you out. I'm going to do anything for you if I can. So
I love that so much. So
Yeah.
before, I know we're rounding out the time together
Yeah.
and I've loved it so much. I want to touch based on this idea. And I said this the other day in Clubhouse, actually, and I caught myself, when you catch yourself saying something, you're like, ooh, that was good. And I'm like in Clubhouse in the rhythm. And so I didn't have a chance to write it down, but I did end up going back to it. And it's this idea of like servant selling, and understanding that if we could remove the idea that selling is scary or that it is door knocking, and we looked
Yeah.
at it as a place of servanthood, we would do it more often because it's noble to serve. And we're instead thinking that we're trying to exchange some sort of cash value thing. And it's not about the money, it's about the service. Can you help us break through some limiting beliefs on selling?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when you can figure out how to make it about the other person and not about you, then that's when it will all start to change. And I there's five. It's in my book. There's 5 types of call reluctance, and every one of them has to deal with mindset. It's fear of rejection. It's over analysis. It's gosh, I can't even think of what my own book. I forget how I phrase it, but essentially what it is oh God, I need to I need to grab
I love
my
it. It's
book now.
okay. I know
Fear of
you're reading
success
and
is
getting
another one,
information all the
and
time.
how can I not remember my own thing? It's
It's
kind of
okay.
funny. Does that ever
Hey,
happen? That's going to happen to
it
you, by
does.
the way, because you have
A
a book coming
thousand
out next week.
percent. I
Now I
actually
want to
was
grab it,
just doing
but
the Audible version of it last
oh,
week. And when I was doing it, I'm like, oh, wow, I forgot about this whole person in
yeah.
my book that I talk about. So
Well,
100%.
now I have to
Lots
grab
of
it. Hold on
grace.
one second. Let me see.
It's so good. I think it's so important for us to have those reflection moments on what we've created.
Hold on. I just
All
got
right,
it.
here it is. Here it is.
Sorry to disrupt your show there, but let's
No, this is important. This is good.
all right. Okay, cool. So here's the book, Sales Playbook, right? There's the book. This is my copy with all the tabs and everything. And there's 5. Let me see. Where is that? There are 5 types of call reluctance here, which are, let me even figure if I can figure out what chapter they're in now.
You look front, back,
This is
middle.
killing me here. All right.
No, I love it. We have got grace
Killing
for your
myself.
space.
Yes. All right. How can I not find this? This is so weird. I've got too many tabs and this and that. But the first one, I mean, to your question, as I'm looking, the reality is most people, the biggest one is fear of rejection by far. People don't want to be rejected. They don't want to look bad. They want to look good. They want to be right. And when you're calling people or you're doing sales, there's a big risk of rejection, right? But the reality is it's only rejection if it's personal. And we have to figure out how to take the personalness out of it, because it's not. In most cases, it's not personal. It's a business transaction. So when you can make it about the other person and you're coming from, as you said, a place of service or servant, that's how you can win in sales. So we have to learn how to make it about the other person. And it's, so here it is. So fear of rejection, number 1, lack of role acceptance. So lack of role acceptance is, I'm selling, but in the back of my mind, I feel like that's really below me. Like maybe I've got a degree or something, or maybe when I was a kid, my parents said things like, man, those damn telemarketers never stop calling, or things like that are still in my head. So although I'm doing it, there's that little bit of mindset that's like, well, I'm kind of above this, or it's below me. Not knowing what to say is another big one, an easy one to fix. Overanalysis is just, we just play games with ourselves. We do everything to get ready to sell, and we don't end up selling because we're just playing games. And then fear of success is the last one. But they can all, Tamra, be overcome just by making it about the other person and really figuring out how to come from contribution. Like, listen, it's about you, not me. So if it's about you and you want my help, fantastic. I'm here to help you. If you don't want my help, that's okay. I don't want to hurt you. I'm just going to go find someone else that wants my help. And if you can figure out how to make it like that, anybody can be successful at sales. But when we make it about ourselves, then we're always going to struggle, because it's about how you rejected me, you turned me down, you did this to me. it's not about me. It's about
Right.
you. It's about helping you, helping the next person. If what I have, and I believe in what I have, which is key, if I believe in my product, I believe in myself, and I'm confident, and my messaging is clear and concise, then and I know it's about you, I can't lose as a salesperson.
It's really good. I love the contribution piece, and also the fifth one, which is the fear of success.
Yeah.
That's something new that's kind of come into my repertoire of understanding in the last couple of months. But I know that that's actually one of the most attuned to ones, especially as entrepreneurs. Like, we hit our own glass ceiling and then we get stuck there and we really, really want to break it. But then there's that thought pattern of, but what if I do? And what if what's the more responsibility? What's the
Yeah.
new level of
Hard.
access? What's the new level, or like all these things. So I think that
Hard
there's a
work.
lot of mindset. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
more hard work. You're like, I
Yeah.
hit the place I wanted to hit. And now what's next? When we talked about that question earlier, what's next? It's more hard work, more waking up at 5 a.m., 4 a.m., 3 a.m. if you're Glenn Lundy, and getting it done.
Well, the good entrepreneurs figure out how to do it better, and then they figure out ways to be more efficient and
Yeah.
get better results and get better at their craft, and then it gets easier. But
Yeah.
what most do is they do it once and they're like, wow, that was so hard, I'm not going to do that
I'm
again,
good.
and then they
Yeah,
stop. And it's too bad, because
it
it's so
is.
common in sales.
And I
Like, you'll
have
see
this,
people have a great year and then quit and do
yeah,
something else,
it's
or a
hard.
great couple months.
It's the consistency piece. And we heard this morning about like consistency in podcasting. Everyone wants a podcast, but only going to 7 or
Oh,
9 shows and then they're out.
yeah.
Same thing with the sales piece. Same things with the relationships. I think if we bring it back to, like, you don't have to be a salesman, but like even in relationships, we don't put the effort and the energy into them in order for them to be really cultivated into true friendship. They're just like, again, those subsurface situations where you're not giving the deposit one way or the other. And therefore it just becomes, I know that person. I'm an acquaintance. How many acquaintances do you have? Lots and lots of acquaintances, which is fine. You can only really have such a small inner circle, or that brotherhood or sisterhood, but there also has to be this effort to maintain the acquaintanceship.
Mm.
So I think it's an interesting conversation to take all of these pieces for those of you who are listening who might not yet be an entrepreneur or have no desire to be there. This applies to no matter what role you play in life, is the path to mastery and the process of learning to sell. People comfortably sell things they love every single day. I'll sell
Yeah.
a hair product. I'll sell a lip gloss. I'll sell my car, like all those things. But when it comes to selling something that is an exchange of something else, there's this valuation problem that people have. And they think, again, I love the ultimate thing is you're putting yourself in the middle of what's supposed to be just about them.
Yeah, something that I don't know. It's maybe it's just me, but I do a lot of rooms on Clubhouse now, and I've actually built a a membership platform, and I do a lot. I mean, we've been doing a room every morning for 5 months, and we pour into people, and but I have a membership site, and I have other stuff that people can go get to the next level, and it's ironic because people people don't like when you offer them something. It's like you'll come in here and listen, but then we give you an offer of some, like, you can take it to the next level for a lousy $47 a month, or if you really want to go to the next level, it's 500 a month. You know what I mean? And then they like, it's like, who
Yeah, they're like, you're
cares?
brilliant. And then 2 seconds later, you
Yeah, it's like,
suck.
yeah, like, why are you selling me something? Like, I'm not selling you anything.
Right.
You know how much money I invest in myself? Like, I'm
Yes.
in everybody's thing. Like, you know what I mean? I
Yes.
want to learn. I want to know. You got something, it's good. Sign me up, right? Even if
Yes.
I don't have time, I'll pop in when I do.
Right. Right.
It's like, so I don't know. But anyway, that's just people. It's human nature.
Yeah.
And I think most people um aren't I don't know. I was lucky. I wasn't brought up like this, but when I was fortunate to spend that time at Keller Williams with Gary Keller and them, I learned to be more education based, coachable, open mindset. I like very learning based. You know what I mean? And I wasn't always like that,
Yeah.
honestly.
Interesting. I
So
think too, that's that staying in the learning zone is an important space to stay in. Otherwise, again, you're back to that stagnancy. And I think stagnancy is like the root of all evil, more so than people think money is the root of all evil. It's just a lie, but stagnancy really is, because then you're inviting in all of those limiting beliefs, all of the doubt,
Mm.
and then you're projecting everything that you have a problem over into those around you, into the world around you, and it's causing stagnancy and complacency in those too. Probably no different than your parents did.
So what are you up to, right? Like, so you have a book coming out
I do. I have
next
a book
week.
coming out. I've got so many events coming up. I've got an event next week in Virginia here with entrepreneurs and leaders in our area. Then we're going to Dallas for the Embrace Your Ambition with Marcus and Ashley, and
Good for
then Grow
you.
for God in November, which I cannot wait to celebrate your 19 years of sobriety with you. That's
That's
really
awesome. So
incredible.
what's causing you to do all that?
Yeah, I mean, my mission is the foundation of obliterating shame. And when you talk about activation, that's like part two. So part one is to get people past themselves and realize that it's not about anything that's happened to them or anything that they've chosen to have happen to them. They are called to more because they still have breath in life. And I believe activation is the next step where they can get out and actually make an impact and serve people. And serving people from your place of pain or passion are ultimately you existing in your purpose. And so I want to see more people not living on the American dream rat wheel, not going through life like a zombie, and truly like standing in their identity as a daughter or son of the king. And if you're in sonship, you have something important. And the first word on your list behind you is light. And I try all the time to just give people a smarter, fresher, more vibrant ability to shine. So that's why.
That's fun. That sign behind me, no one's ever mentioned it before, but
It's so
a few
good.
years ago I was we did a thing at a retreat up in Vermont, and they had a median come in. I
Ooh.
think that's what it's called, for those
Yeah.
people that, yeah. So, and those were the 5 words that she came up with for me. So those are actually,
Wow.
light, reliable, force, passion, wisdom. So
I
that was
concur
cool.
with her. That's really cool. Such
Yeah.
affirmations.
Yeah, and it's blue, my favorite color. They just
I love
ironically
it.
sent blue.
What a
You
cool
can, yeah.
concept to do. I mean, you could do that with anyone, regardless if they have ability to be a median or not.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, that's what
Yeah,
she came up with, but yeah,
really
it was
cool.
fun.
Well, David,
But
it's been such a joy to have you here, and I am so excited for people to tune into your show and get your book,
thank
get
you.
into your membership programs, all of the things. Where are you spending the most time on social media for them to get invested?
Um, Clubhouse right
Clubhouse.
now.
Follow him
But
around. Be
yeah,
a
probably
follower.
Clubhouse, but the easiest way to connect with me is my link,
Awesome.
davidhill.link. So just go to davidhill.link and you
Awesome.
can get access to all of my stuff. But I'm on Clubhouse a lot. I'm on Instagram, but davidhill.link will get you
Nice.
everywhere. There's
And
also a
you can
couple more
see both
videos
of
if you
us
want to
in Kentucky in a couple of weeks. So we would
say
love to
that
have
again.
you. And everyone can see both of us in Kentucky in a
Yeah,
couple
right.
of
We'll be
weeks.
there. I got my VIP ticket. I'm ready to
Yeah, it's gonna
go.
be epic.
Although
Me
I've got
too.
like 2 other conflicts that I got to figure out,
Oh,
but
do
we'll
you?
get it figured out.
It'll work itself
Yeah.
out, just
Yeah.
like the
So
rest of your entrepreneurial problems that he's about to go tend to. You guys, this is real. People don't just show up on these things and create an hour of space in their time without all of the rest of the society and life and their business, sometimes falling to the wayside. And so David's got an opportunity to learn something new today, and he will be able to serve people from that place of pain tomorrow. So we thank you for being here so
amen.
much, friend.
Yes, amen. Thank
It
you.
was
I
a gift.
appreciate you.
Absolutely. Chat